personally, I believe that a state of emergency in Jamaica, it's not serving the purpose that it should be serving, because for one is that a target, the target that the people that it's supposed to target is not targeting. Now, the state of emergency is set up and it's going to target gang members, gang leaders, area leaders, area dons, and stuff like that, or people that are wanted by the security forces for various crime. Then we could see, for that. But when they randomly picking up like innocent people and working class people and locking them away for a period of time, and a lot of these people lose their jobs. Um, it causes tremendous impact, negative impact, and their families. They got kids to feed, they got bills to pay, and all that, and then that becomes like a disruption within the family. And then I don't believe that the state of public emergency in Jamaica are serving the purpose that it's supposed to design for. Um, I don't know if it's a government plan or it's just the security forces doing their own thing, because to me that's insane and ridiculous. I mean, come on. I mean, let's think about it. I mean, it should actually design to to target. It should be a target um, program that you target area leaders, dons, gang members, gang leaders, people that is wanted by the security forces for various crime, especially murders and serious violence. Predators that are out there that's creating mayhem in society. And so far, uh, the people that they're picking up, it's like, yeah, like, are they serious? And it's like a joke. And most of the time, the security forces they punish people because young people in general, especially when they know they're innocent, people in general they're innocent, they're going about their business, and you stop them and you're using your profanities to them, they're going to use it back to you. They don't care who the hell you are, what rank you hold. You know what I'm saying? They're going to use it back to you. And if you want people to respect you, you have to respect people also, because respect is something that earned. You don't get respect, you have to earn it. So if you disrespect me and expect me to respect you in return, then I don't know what kind of a human being you are. And that's what happened with a lot of security personnel within the Jamaica security forces. Happened all over the world, really, because an officer talk to you, disrespect you, talk to you, have no respect whatsoever towards you, and then you respond back to them in the same manner of how they approach you. They don't like that, you know what I mean? And what they will do, they will show you that the power that they have, that they could detain you for up to 2 weeks to 90 days, or what I mean. They can do that because I heard, I mean, police tell me that straight up with their mouth. you know um if they pick up somebody, if they don't like you, period, and they pick you up, they can just you know hold you over, and they can just say we're holding you for a Hadi parade, and they will always find excuses to do things like that. And I don't think the law should allow such thing like that to happen. What the law should have done is that if you pick up a person, you must have a charge to keep that person in custody for you know for any duration of time. Nobody should be in any police lockup just based on just detention because a police officer think that he or she can do that, because that in itself is a very serious practice that put all the citizens at risk. Very, very dangerous, because they can just pick up anybody and just destroy them. And I also remember there's an inspector of police that even speak about that once when we have a talk, and he was talking about the dangerous practice of the Jamaica Constabulary Force Security, Jamaica Security Forces in period, the stuff that they can do, and it's dangerous. And then it's I don't think the government really think about these issues because they, I guess they don't think about the citizens in general because especially for the inner city residents, because what the government knows and the elected officials know that most of the time, 99.9% of the time, um, the people that is targeted the most is those that lives in the inner city in the so-called ghetto, because they lack the resources and to stand up on their own and to let their voices be heard. And that's a serious practice within itself when you really think about it. So you can just imagine, and that's dangerous. That's gross. You know what I mean? It's real gross because when they come to the inner city, they don't need a warrant, they don't need nothing. They just kick your door in, they walk in your place, they destroy it, and if you talk or say something, they try to arrest you. They have a thing that they charge you for assaulting an officer. Sometimes they're the one that hit you, but because they hit you, and you might thinking of taking action, what they'll do now is try to protect themselves by charging you for the act that they did, or what they have done, and charge you for resisting arrest and stuff like that. You know what I mean? That's it's crazy, and nobody questions the legality of these things. The court does not question the legality of these things, even though the judge has the power to do that. They don't question the legality of these things. The prosecutor's office, that's supposed to be the main office that's supposed to protect the citizen of the country, they don't question the legality of certain of these arrests that been made by the security forces. So in other words, they don't protect the citizens in no way or form if you really look at it, because they should question these legality. What's the probable cause of entering that person's property? They don't question those things. Why did you enter property in the first place? You know what drive you there. Now if you were driven there by some intelligence, what's the probable cause? You know what I mean? Where is the warrant? What's the evidence or whatever that you know what I mean? What is it? There's no reason given. You know what I mean? And it's dangerous, very much dangerous for the average inner city resident in Jamaica, because since that's where the security forces penetrate the most, that's where the highest concentration is within the ghetto, and that's very dangerous, very very dangerous. And you have people that like they're being held hostage in their own home. They're so afraid to hit the street because sometimes you got your kids, you got your young sons and stuff, and you're so afraid to send them out on the street. Even when they're going to work, you fear their safety, not from the gunman or from the so-called criminal, but from the security forces. And when you think about that, that's kind of dangerous. When you have to think about how what they might do to your sons or grandson, or what I mean. Really, that's something serious to think about. That's dangerous. And I don't think you should live in any country and fear the security forces. You're supposed to have high regards for your security forces because their job is to serve and to protect and to reassure, and what I mean. And if they're violating your rights, and it's like you don't have no rights dealing with them, then that's dangerous. Very, very so dangerous. And I think the people need to make sure that changes be made to those. You have to get um, um, political representative that are in the best interest of the country and the people. And they don't. Things need to change drastically. And it's the whole system needs to revolutionize and to evolutionize, You know what I mean? It's just has to be a total change in mindset. I believe even the security forces needs to um, rebuild from the scratch. And in order to do that, you have to get rid of some of the head of the security that they have, because they are the major corrupt um, figureheads that's all there that keep on perpetuating these criminal and violent activities against the citizen of the inner city, um, and then say to the nation that they're doing their jobs. You know what I mean? And you can't say you're doing your job when you're in violation of the laws, in violation of the Constitution, in violation of human rights, in violation of international protocols and guidelines and international laws of best practice. I mean, that's something we all got to think about and wonder if, is this the right way to go? We don't see government officials said nothing about, the only time we hear government officials really comes out is like if a cop got killed. You know what I mean? If a cop got killed and stuff like that, you hear government official comes out and say something. But when it goes the other way around, where the cops go and shoot people and kill people and stuff like that, you heard nothing of it. It's just like it's swept under the carpet, and it's so quiet. You know, what I mean, you don't see the political representative come out and put a sanction against the security forces and said no, we cannot allow this. This have to be disallowed. They don't do those things, and in many cases, sometimes you heard they dismantle one unit and then they transfer the same culprit to other parts of the security forces. In all reality, when you think of it, the perpetrators are still within, the security forces, and and then when you have these older heads in there, they corrupt the mind of the younger ones that will come in. That sometimes you go there to really make a difference, but the older heads there now, they don't want that. You know what I mean? Because you are gonna expose a system that, if you come about changes, you're exposing what they're doing for so many years that nobody, so they actually takes you under their wing and, make you become a part of the corrupt activities and, whatever it is. And that's dangerous. Um, I think personally there has to be changes. No matter what, there has to be changes. Must be changes within the way how they conduct and stuff like that. If you're going to declare a state of emergency as a government or head of state or whatever, you're supposed to set guidelines. You must have guidelines that the security forces must follow. These guidelines must come from the Parliament of Jamaica, from the parliamentarians. It must be approved, and it must be guidelines that are within the context of the Constitution, within the context of the Declaration of Human Rights, within the context of international laws of best practice, within the context of the Geneva Convention. It must be you know, in the best regards of the citizens. And state of emergency is basically you bring about law in order to stabilize a situation for a period of time. And so, but not to go out there and to violate the rights of people, not to go out there and to enter people's property because you think you got the power to do so. The state of emergency should not designate for that purposeful reason, because that's dangerous. That put all citizens at risk, even put the government itself at risk, because the government did not set the guidelines that needed to be set. And so, in many cases, there's a lot of power that has been taken away from the government themselves, and they don't know that they themselves is at risk because of not carefully planning um, and setting guidelines for these state of public emergencies. And that's very, very much so dangerous. And the government need to think of it, look at it, and to understand not just that only the regular citizens or in serious problem, or by the security forces, or they're at risk. They're at a risk. But the government themselves, the government, the prime minister, the opposition leader, member of parliament, all them are at risk also. Because the moment you activate the state of emergency without clear and proper guidelines, you're all at risk. Not only just the little citizen that they really go and target and harass and violate their rights and stuff, but all y'all at risk too, you know what I mean? So the prime minister, he's at risk because they can use a state of emergency to even take him down, take the prime minister down, to take the country all the way down. They can do that because you give them, you unleash them with a certain power without knowing what you're doing as at a state, and that's dangerous, very, very dangerous. And these are things that needs to reconsider. These are things that when you're going to declare a state of emergency, you have to think, you have to plan, you have to put in place the guidelines, you have to put in place protocols, and you have to be serious with these things. Once it's been violated by any member, they have, they will pay the penalty accordingly. It won't be no if, no but, or a pat on the shoulder or on his wrist and say next time don't do it. But you set examples and let them know you're not above the law, and if you are on the other side, then we have to teach you a lesson. You have to pay the price just like anybody else. Until the government realize that and start doing so, they just will get a full understanding of what the risks they put the people, the citizen of Jamaica in. Dangerous. So, with that, I said, people, go out and vote, register to vote, do the right thing, start voting for issues that affect you, issues that affect the countries. Start voting for the right purpose. Stop voting for a party because you're a die-hearted, whatever you call yourself. You don't have to do that. Vote for the right thing. Vote for changes. Vote for peace. Vote for justice for all. Vote because you need change. Vote because you want your voice to be heard. And make sure when you vote, you also vote for people that will lobby for the rights of the people. Vote for change.